You wrote for all the shows, all the top dramatic shows of that time, had Gene Roddenberry scripts.
I wrote for them, but as television began to get more of a rush, get them out, make money, the better opportunities for shows began to go. Kaiser Lumenauer faded, and all of those, and the best opportunities for writing series, cop shows, detective shows, and so on. And there was then less and less chance to make a statement, to say, here is how I feel about something. And of course, all writers want to do that.
Of course they do, and especially in that time, there were so many terrific shows on the air that I would imagine a writer would want to do a script that could be sold to Naked City. You'd want to have, you'd want that on your credit list, or you'd want to have the Goodyear Theater, or you'd want to have the top shows. You'd want your credit as part of those shows. It was a symbolic of your achievement to be on a Naked City
and
show.
The pleasure in making a statement.
Yep.
Actually, art of all types is comment, and it gave you a chance to make a comment. Later on, television began to get so competitive that you had little chance to make comments.
How is it making Star Trek today as compared to when you first did it? It has to be a totally different experience with the pressure of overnight ratings, the use of videotape, the rapid production sequences. There have got to be some frustrations, I would think.
Censorship was terribly difficult, and it was a great deal of the censorship was sexual censorship. They would actually measure the cleavage on a girl, and they would keep threatening you. If you do any open-mouth kissing, we're not going to keep the scene in, and stuff like that.
There was a great fear about human sensuality and sexuality. On television.
It was all right in those days to stick a shotgun in someone's belly.
Yep, exactly right.
Blow them away. But don't open-mouth kiss.
You know, America has a funny set of standards. It strikes you home in the news business, too. I remember one time in New York, somehow I giggled because somebody was perpetrating me in a story about ducks freezing in a wildlife preserve, and I must have gotten 150 letters from people. How dare you make fun of ducks dying?
Yes.
2 nights later on the news, there was a gangland killing at a restaurant in Brooklyn where the guy swallowed a cigar when the bullet went into his gut, and they showed this on television with the blood trickling down his forehead, and nobody peeped, not one word. I thought to myself, here we watch a man being killed, and nobody complains, but if we accidentally laugh over a freezing duck, it's almost a march in the streets. And I thought to myself, what kind of value is that? I couldn't understand it at the time when it happened. I still can't understand it.
I still can't understand. I can't understand films like the Rambo films, which glorify killing.
Exactly.
He must be great because he's killed 137 people.
Yep.
And I couldn't help but wonder yesterday when the shooting went on at this school.
Up in Stockton,
is that is the glorification of killing and violence, how much did that play a part in this school thing?
Right. Also, there's a feeling in America when it comes to our political leadership that anything goes so long as it's not something sexual. A lot of people said when Watergate came up, yeah, but what about Teddy Kennedy and Mary Jo Kopechne? In other words, that's an even worse sin than conspiring to obstruct justice. That's a worse sin than misappropriation of public monies. Is anything sexual now, we've really got you. We've really got you now in something really dirty, and we're going to punish you for it.
So sad, because someone is involved in what is actually a rather lovely thing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And, I'm not advocating free love or fornication or adultery here, but I'm saying that there are worse sins than sensuality. I have to pause for commercials. My guest is Gene Roddenberry. Right back with more of Gene on the Wednesday night radio show. We are back with Gene Roddenberry, who mentioned during the break, and, people don't talk much about this, but Star Trek has never been a violent show.
That's right.
You don't kill people in Star Trek.
No, we do not. We have deaths on Star Trek because death is a part of life, but we never resolve a story problem with a killing, and so no one steps in with a machine gun and someone says, "Okay, all of you, we're blowing you out, and that's the good guys have won again."
Right. How is the new Star Trek doing? I would assume it's an enormous success because every time we do a show on anything associated with Star Trek, I did the television show with some cast members. Gene, it takes on a life of its own. People have an enormous interest in memorabilia, in photographs, in souvenirs, in toys, lunchboxes. So I would assume that it's just something that will just keep perpetuating itself.
It has been a success, although when Paramount came to me and said, would you like to do a new Star Trek, I said no. You know, I wanted no part of it, and so then we discussed it, and they said, well, we don't blame you. It's probably impossible to bring a show back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then my ears perked up. Well, wait a minute.
What do you mean it's impossible? I'll show you what's not possible.
And then I think the wisest decision we made is we didn't do Son of Kirk and Spock.
Yeah.
We decided to go with an entirely new group of people for several reasons. One, if you get a crew on a new show and writers and so on, they want their own thing.
Of course.
They don't want something that's gone on and been a success somewhere else. So we got an entirely different kind of captain, and an entirely different group, and it's found its own rhythm.
Sure. What about the movie Star Treks? There's another one in production now, isn't there?
Just finished shooting it, and we're beginning to put it together. It'll be out in mid-June.
The man was in here one night, Ricardo Montalban. Remember The Wrath of Khan?
Marvelous, yes.
Yeah, he, in fact, wasn't the title of the picture changed after his performance came in when they saw the anger that he displayed or the wrath that he displayed in the film?
Yes, they liked that very much. Ricardo and I have a long history. As a matter of fact, Ricardo was also in the first Secret Defense of the 117 that I did.
You're kidding?
Yes. But he's played Marine Corps sergeants for me and all sorts of things.
You know, it's funny. His legacy is going to be The Plane Boss, The Plane, Fantasy Island. But the range of his work over the years, now
yes.
I don't remember, and I probably never saw the Defense of 117, but I've seen him in stuff over the years. I don't know if you've seen The Naked Gun, where he plays the villain. You know, he's a comic buffet. I mean, it's art what this man does.
Yes, yes.
And a lot of people don't realize he is a terrific actor. He's great talent and great range in the stuff he does. And
with an almost Christ-like personality.
Yeah, I know.
Nice
I know.
Yeah.
Nobody. I said to him, he was here one night. I said, "You must go home and hit something because nobody's that nice." He said, "I am that nice."
And I'll hit you if you.
If you don't, I'll blow you away. So when did Star Trek come to you? You're writing for all the shows, Naked City, Goodyear, Jane Wyman, etc., etc. When did this come to you?
I had played around with the idea of a science fiction show, and it seemed to me the science fiction I'd seen was not done in a good way. And
you know, I remarked here one night early on, we did a show on Mars. You know, all of us have a tremendous fascination for Mars. Remember this book that came out, The Faces on Mars, City on the Edge of Forever, or some such thing? And they got a thing up there that looks like the Sphinx. I'm sure you've seen the pictures,
yes, I
okay?
have, yes.
Now this guy tells me, he says, the old Arabic name for Cairo was Mars. And I thought to myself, you know, what if 150,000 years ago, we went there and put this there and came back, and then for whatever, the world blew up and we started all over again and nobody remembered that we'd been there. I mean, you know, anything is possible if you start thinking about it.
I suppose, although why anyone would build a face there that large,
anyway,
several square miles in size.
They always wondered why people never came here from other planets, and I have the answer. Up until Star Trek, if they watched our movies about space, anybody who came here, we blew them up. You know what I'm saying? Remember the day the Earth stood still? We couldn't wait to blow up the spaceship. But we want to shoot everybody that comes here. Anyway, we'll continue with Gene Roddenberry and Star Trek and eventually get to all of you on the Wednesday night radio show right after these messages. Thanks for listening, everybody.
From New York, WABC Talk Radio 77.